Hello, everyone. Wherever you are, in the Caribbean, in Central and South America, in the English speaking Caribbean, in the Spanish speaking Caribbean, in the French speaking Caribbean, the Dutch speaking Caribbean, wherever you are, in Africa, in Middle East and North Africa region, in Asia, South Asia, Southeast Asia, the Pacific Islands. If you are a person who's LGBTQ plus and you're a person of color and you live along the equator or in the global south, welcome. Welcome to this first ever LGBTQ plus People of Color Global South Summit. Next. This evening, we want to be able to celebrate with you and have a conversation. We feature this evening the English-speaking Caribbean. We began last week at our opening on the 26th of May with Mexico and Central America. This evening, we begin the first part or day one of the English-speaking Caribbean, and they'll be focusing on decolonizing LGBTQ plus existence through resilience and human rights. There's a packed program that is being hosted by both Caribbean Equality Project here in New York City and ECADE, which is based in the Eastern Caribbean, and it's part of the Caribbean LGBT, English-speaking LGBT. Next. So one of the things that we want to do is before we do anything, we take a moment to remember and honor our community members, those who we know that we have lost to homicide, suicide, to violence. We want to honor those in our communities who suffer or have suffered violence at the hands of others, whether it is outside of the LGBT community or within the LGBT community. Next. So I'd like us to take a moment in silence to just think about and bring into this space this evening those of our community members who we've lost. Those who we've lost to HIV/AIDS, those that we've lost within the last year or more to the COVID virus, those that we've lost to suicide, those that we've lost to homicide. And let us spare a thought for those who struggle with domestic or intimate partner violence. And from those of us in our communities, wherever we are located, anywhere in the global south, that are struggling against community oppression and state oppression for who we are. Thank you. Next. So what is it that we are meeting here for? We're talking about a Global South Summit. And considering Black and people of color living along in the equator and in the global south are the largest populations on the earth, and since LGBTQ plus people are present in all communities, we affirm that LGBTQ plus people of color constitute the largest sub-demographic in the world. We need to embrace that power. We need to embrace and harness that strength. We are aware that when international media report on or about LGBTQ people of color living along the equator or in the global south, these often follow a tragic event. Our community's pain is often pathologized and exploited. Rarely, if ever, do we hear, see, experience our community members' richness, beauty, vibrancy, and resilience. With this Global South Summit, we hope to change that image. We want LGBT people of color who live along the equator and in the global south to be seen and heard. We want to highlight and celebrate our community's lives. Even though representatives in the diaspora created this framework for this summit in the global north, it was imperative that community members reclaim their voice and provide the programming from their respective locales. They tell us, they show us who they are, how they live, how they celebrate, and how they mourn. Because we are people of color in the global south, and we are the largest demographic, sub-demographic on the planet. Next. We'd like to acknowledge members of our planning team, and they are here on this flyer. Members from Zimbabwe and Liberia, from Nigeria, from the Dominican Republic, from the Philippines, Guyana, and Thailand, from Zimbabwe and India. So it's all across the world. We gathered people to plan this event. Next. We also want to thank and acknowledge our partnering and participating organizations. Black Gay Blog, that's based in the UK, the Clemente Foundation, In My Mind Conference, DBGM, XAD Productions, the LGBT Center here in New York City, and Claymont Designs. We also want to thank and acknowledge Mohammed and Caribbean Equality Project, Kenita Placide from ECADE. We want to thank and acknowledge Creme de la Creme House of Fame Foundation in Nigeria, Instab Niger in Nigeria, BN Foundation from South Africa, Transition from South Africa, Zimbabwe Rainbow Community from Zimbabwe. We want to thank APCOM from Thailand, Baby Lanes from the Philippines, Micro Rainbow International Foundation from Indonesia, Suarta Kita from Laos, and Chias from Cambodia. These are all organizations that are joined us from around the world to celebrate LGBT people of color communities. Next. Now, I would like to introduce someone who I have known for a very long time. I would like to introduce Dee Brown, and first of all, to extend hearty congratulations to Dee on just achieving and earning her master's in social work. Dee Brown, using the pronouns they, them, she, and hers, is a trans Antiguan American and a Brooklyn, New York City resident with a vested interest in the Black, queer, and trans and Caribbean communities' mental health. They are passionate about mobilization and representation of marginalized communities in government and the public health of low-income communities. Dee coordinated and managed many citywide homeless outreach initiatives, including the NYC Hope Count, I Am My Sister Is Me, and Being United in Love and Diversity. They serve as the Caribbean Equality Project's mental health coordinator, is the creator of CEP's #PrideIs campaign for NYC World Pride in 2019, and co-facilitates CEP's Unchained program. Like I said, Dee just earned her master's in social work. So let's give a big shout out and congratulations to Dee as we welcome Dee as the host for our panel discussion this evening. Community members, I give you Dee.
Thank you so much, Antoine, for that. That was so wonderful. So good evening to all, and welcome to our expressions moving toward inclusivity. My name is Dee Brown, and I am proudly representing the Caribbean region and the Caribbean Equality Project as a mental health coordinator here in New York City, Brooklyn, New York. I would like to extend a warm welcome to all of the wonderful panelists and speakers that we have here tonight. The Caribbean, a region rich with color, culture, music, and vibrance. From the outside looking in, the beats of our culture permeate like the pulse of a beating drum to all who bear witness. However, this culture that is so beloved by the world comes from trauma, pain, strength, and perseverance. In the Caribbean region, we all have been stripped of our cultures, stripped of our mother languages, and stripped of our identities. Our ancestors revolted in a brilliant display of mightiness that was too great to ignore. When the colonizers fled back to their home countries, we remained, fostering brand new cultures. We embraced the dialects and the languages that we created in order to survive, reclaiming them as badges of honor and signs of our reclaimed identity. However, as brilliant and as proud as we are, not all of us experience the culture in the same way. For many of us at this summit, the same culture that we love so much, that we have embraced and take so much pride in, has hurt us, rejected us, and forsaken us, which is why many of us seek refuge, and especially in countries such as the United States. According to the United States Environmental Protection Agency, environmental justice is the fair treatment and meaningful involvement of all people, regardless of race, color, national origin, or income, with respect to the development, implementation, and enforcement of environmental laws, regulations, and policies. For many countries, for what it's worth, looks toward the United States as a beacon of light, hope, and progression. However, as the last year has made evidently clear, the United States has much room to grow. But what does this look like for folks like you and me? It is acutely difficult for transgender, non-binary, and gender non-conforming individuals who exist in this world daily, trying their hardest to navigate a system in a society that does not acknowledge them, does not support them, and does not embrace them anywhere. As a result, trans people are left out of the conversation surrounding LGBTQ health, LGBTQ and income equality, and LGBTQ rights. For trans women in particular, this does prove fatal. However, today, we will be speaking about decolonizing the LGBTQ experience as it pertains to trans equity and inclusivity through the health and economic stability. It is no secret that the T is oftentimes overlooked. But tonight, with the panel that we have and the speakers that we will have, I encourage you all to open your mind and open your hearts, but most importantly, open the space for the trans community's experiences and voices to take their rightful place in these crucial conversations. So, the next segment we have is actually introducing a video of a drag performer, a wonderful drag performer who is of Belizean descent and Honduran descent, based here in New York City, by the name of Jalissa A. Ross. I love Jalissa. I love how she performs. And this is one of her standard and most well-known performances created by him. This was taped at this Caribbean Equality Project's 5th annual Love is Living Our Values and Equally event back in February of 2020. And without further ado, I present to you Jalissa A. Ross.
And the spirit of life calling and a voice, just the fear of a child. Hear these words I can't
Thank you so much for that. That was a wonderful. So give it up for Jalissa A. Ross. That was a wonderful performance. That it's a treat to see live. You think it was great now, but it's a treat to see it live. Next, I would like to bring on a remarkable young lady from the country of Guyana by the name of Tiffany Monroe. I have met this young lady 2 years ago prior to her coming into her full flowered self. And the transformation from that timid individual to the queen diva that you see in front of you is nothing short of magnificent. And I would love for you all to hear the story from this young woman. Tiffany, take it away.
Hello, everyone. So, as my lovely sister Dee said, my name is Tiffany Jade Monroe. I'm from the beautiful country of Guyana. You know, sometimes I sit and I ask myself, who is Tiffany? Tiffany is a strong, powerful, resilient, a fighter. Because, you know, when I left Guyana and I came here to the USA, I was shocked in the sense of we live in Guyana, we hear of the USA, the United States of America, New York City, amazing. But when we get here, it's like totally different. You have to navigate your way around. And then when you want to be your true self, it can be a little frustrating because you have to get onto the right sources, the right people to decide what do you want for yourself. So I met Mohammed Q Amin, who is the founder of Caribbean Equality Project. And, you know, I spoke to Mohammed and I said, there's nothing more for me in Guyana. I need to be here because this is where I belong. And, you know, Mohammed explained to me, like, he understands and everything. And from then to now, it's been such an amazing experience. When I first called Mohammed and I was like, hey, Mo, guess what? I'm a trans woman. I was like, are you really sure? Mohammed is like, girl, if you're a trans woman, you be a trans woman and you be that beautiful trans woman. And, you know, that's when Tiffany Jade Monroe was born. I had a lot of struggles to find healthcare, find a good place to stay. Transphobia is all around, homophobia is all around. And like being trans, I never knew that it would have been such a struggle of identity, a struggle of being accepted by your own relatives. Even to this day, I don't really talk too much with my family in Guyana because, you know, they don't understand who Tiffany is. And I really have like one aunt who's so supportive and I love her so much. She's back in Guyana, but she's really supportive. And I just felt so devastated. And Mohammed helped me to get onto places where I could get hormone treatment and, you know, planning surgeries and lawyer dates. Because, you know, besides being a trans woman from Guyana, I'm also an asylum seeker and I'm also a trans activist. So I've just had like a beautiful time here and also a frustrating time trying to be myself and be Tiffany and learn who Tiffany is. That too has been a really great experience for me, to the point where I've been to rallies with Mohammed. I woke up the next day, my face is on the front page of the New York Times, every newspaper in the USA. And Vogue had a photo of me. Marc Jacobs posted me. It was just shocked and I cried. And, you know, I told myself, why me? Why Tiffany? Tiffany's no one special. And Mohammed made me see that I was that special person. And to this day, I will always love Mohammed Q Amin, always. And I'm very appreciative for everything he has done for me and helping me on this journey to be Tiffany Jade Monroe. You know, as I said, we all see the USA and we expect everything is all bright and beautiful. We're still fighting, and we're continuing to fight. My sister Twinkle, she's gonna be on soon, but my sister Twinkle knows we've been fighting and fighting for so many rights for the trans women and for all transgender people. And it's just been so frustrating and such a struggle to get what we want, to get affordable healthcare, to get documentations done, to get everything that we need, because we are people too, and we want to be recognized, and we want to say, hey, we fought and we fought and we got results. So as I said, like, I just love myself, and I love who I am now. I'm strong, beautiful, and very resilient. And Caribbean Quality Project has helped me a lot with everything. And I just want to thank you guys so much for everything. And yeah, this is Tiffany.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Tiffany. Before you go, I have a couple of questions to ask you, my love.
Okay.
So I know this one you throw at me all the time, but what is next for Tiffany? Like, let's talk about Tiffany for a second. What's next for you now that you're here, now that you're kind of like in your element at this point, because like you seem to be reveling in who Tiffany Jade Monroe is. So what's next for Tiffany?
Ooh, you got me sweating here. So I'm not gonna like go into full details. Possibly marriage is in the picture. Every girl wants that dream wedding. But actually, I am just trying to build my activism skills. As I said, I have my beautiful sister Twinkle who's there with me step by step. I have Mohammed to help me. I'm really trying to build that activist portfolio because I really, really, really want to show that I'm from Guyana and I could fight for everyone's rights here in the USA. I'm not just here sitting and watching. And I really want to focus more on that activist line. So that is next for Tiffany Jade Monroe. Who knows? Maybe I'll be a model. Might see me with Naomi Campbell.
Love that. And I'm pretty sure Naomi would love to have you. My last question for you before you run off and be the beautiful butterfly that I know you are. What would you say to other asylum seekers coming to the United States or going to a country like Canada, UK to find solace and find asylum so they can find their true selves? What would you say to them?
I would say take it easy. Take it easy in the sense of it can be overwhelming, it can be frustrating. I can tell you from experience because I was super frustrated. Just take each day one step at a time. You can't get everything done right away. You can't expect to wave a wand and poof, everything is done for you. It's a process, and it can be a tiring process. We want to come to the USA, we want to go to Canada, we want to go to these other countries. We want to be free, we want to be ourselves, but then it doesn't happen right away. Everything takes time. And I just want you to have that patience. Patience is very important. And I've cried many days and many nights, struggled, suicidal thoughts, everything, because it's a process and it tells a toll on your mental health. And once you do not have that support there with you, it's scary. So we must have that patience. We really must have that patience to take it one step at a time and say to yourself, hey, I made this decision to come here. I knew it would have been a long one, and I have the resilience and the patience to wait and weigh it out because the end result is going to be amazing.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Tiffany. Get yourself some Kleenex, girl. We are here for you. We love you. We support you, and we are with you every step of the way. Always remember that.
Thank you.
No, thank you. So up next, we have a video from TransWave. This video is particularly about trans-specific inclusive healthcare from Trans Talk Jamaica. So without further ado, here is the video from TransWave.
Universal healthcare is healthcare that's accessible to everyone, and it's affordable healthcare, preferably free, but if it's not free, at least somewhat affordable so that people can be able to have access to it without fear of discrimination, without fear of stigma, and can actually afford it. At least that's what it means to me.
Universal healthcare is and should be accessible to all persons, particularly for the persons who are most vulnerable and marginalized, and for those who can't afford private healthcare. So some trans-specific healthcare services that are needed in Jamaica includes access to hormone replacement therapy, particularly for persons who wish to medically transition. While medical transition is not critical or important for all trans persons, there are some persons in Jamaica who wish to access hormone replacement therapy. And unfortunately, this is not accessible through public health care, and this is detrimental to the well-being of the trans community.
Well, definitely HRTs, access to HRTs is a must. Currently, there really isn't any programs around that that provides HRTs to trans people. People usually have to go to outside sources to get it, and it's kind of pricey. And we don't really have endocrinologists in Jamaica that can offer those services. So that's something that's needed. We need more skilled professionals who are able to administer HRTs. We need to be able to access HRTs. There also needs to be more trans-specific professionals who can actually do the surgeries. So those are some of the things that we are in desperate need of. Stigma and discrimination continues to be like a major barrier to trans-specific healthcare. And I think particularly too, it's because clinicians just aren't aware of the trans community. And for me, that's not an excuse, because I mean, there's internet, there are so many people around who are visible. But the truth is that people really, or clinicians really don't know that much about the community. And because they don't know, they tend not to be able to provide the services that trans people need. Is that okay? It's not. Is there more that clinicians can do to provide more holistic services to trans people? Yes. And where does it start? It starts with them actually getting information, doing their own research, as well as reaching out to people who are from the community who can help to provide that information.
Thank you so much for that. So next up, we have our panel. I will be introducing the absolutely wonderful, gorgeous, amazing Twinkle A. Paul, who is the Caribbean Equality Project's trans activist and policy advocate. I met Twinkle Paul around three years ago. One of the first meetings that I had with her, she was running up and down Fifth Avenue in our World Pride Parade, working and cutting up. So that was my first introduction to Miss Paul. But as I've grown to know her, she has become one of the folks that I admire. She's one of the folks that I kind of looked to when it came for trans activism and her opinions on things, and how she was able to really just kind of hunker down and like create these movements and create these events and panels and all these things. So I know that she is going to make this one of the best panels that you have seen thus far. So I would love nothing more than to introduce the wonderful, the incomparable Twinkle A. Paul.
Thank you so much for that introduction, DB. I think before you go anyway, I just want to say a heartfelt congratulations to you on achieving your master's in social work. This means so much to me. I've worked in or with cisgendered people that value our contribution and what we can do for this work based on our degrees and diploma and our S and T's behind our names. And I think our community are going places, and we're doing what we need to do and proving people wrong that we're not only sex workers or whatever they put us in, we're more than that, or what they think we are. So without further ado, let me say good afternoon to all our viewers who are looking on YouTube, wherever you're streaming in or tuning from. Good afternoon. My name is Twinkle A. Paul. I am the policy advisor, trans advocate for the Caribbean Equality Project. I'm also technical advisor for the Guyana Trans United. I've worked there since 2015. I don't work there anymore. I left there in 2018, but I also work in a different capacity for them. I do hope we have one of the best discussions here this afternoon. And I'm excited, I'm happy, I'm pleased, I'm overjoyed to share space here with my trans sibling and to bring our story to the world and to let you know about the work that's been doing in this community and each of us in our respective countries. Without further ado, I would not say or introduce the panelists because everybody should talk their own story. That's not my place. Anyways, we will give each panelist 2 to 3 minutes to introduce themselves, to say your name, your pronoun, the country you're from, and the work you do in your respective countries or organizations or in your individual capacities. Without further ado, I would like us to bring our panelists on stage or on screen. Thank you. I do not want to call on anybody, so whoever is ready, I think you can unmute and just introduce yourself and give it over to somebody else. Thank you, guys. Nice to see each one of you.
All right, I'll get started. Good afternoon, everybody, wherever you're tuning in from. Thank you so kindly to the Caribbean Equality Project and ECARE for having me. My name is Zoe Sazel. My pronouns are she, her. I am from Trinidad and Tobago, and I represent the Trinidad and Tobago Transgender Coalition. I've been working with Trans Coalition for the past year or so, and I've also been working with Pride TT in their capacity as co-chair also for the past year. A bit about myself, my activism work began in performance quite many years ago with my performance work as Miss Janae. And since then, I've just taken my community engagement and translated it into more formal modes of activism. So right now, a lot of the work that we are working on is amplifying the voices of trans people in Trinidad, and also bringing those strategic measures so that from a legal perspective, both with regards to shifting the gender marker and also with regards to equal employment equality. Those are some of the areas, and of course, healthcare, some of the areas that right now the Trans Coalition is focusing their work on. So that's all I'll say. I'll say thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here, and I'm so honored to share this panel with our other partners.
Raven.
Hi, good night. Sorry. My name is Raven Gill. I am the founder of Butterfly Trans Barbados. That is the only legally registered trans-led and focused organization in Barbados. The work that Butterfly does, we advocate for mental health. We advocate for access to welfare, health services, education, changes to policies and legislation. We have a good relationship with the Ministry of Health so far. It could be better, and hoping to extend that throughout the other branches of government. Right now, our main focus is to bring awareness to what it means to be trans in Barbados within the Barbadian/Caribbean context, and not too much inflated with what is seen and advertised in the global north. because we know people like to say it's brainwashing, it is coming from outside, the influence, but trans people have existed in Barbados before me, and there are persons that are trans coming up after me. So we have to find a comprehensive way to integrate trans persons with the rest of the non-LGBT community, as well as create a bridge within our own LGBT community.
Hello, good evening, everyone. I am Miss Naomi Santiago Portmore. I'm a descendant from Ghana, but now I live in Paramount, Suriname. Me being a transgender woman commercial sex worker, I'm here to represent not only transgender commercial sex workers, but transgenders around the entire world. Because I think that we face some of the most discrimination, especially when you're a transgender of color. So I'm here to speak on behalf of not myself, but of all my sisters.
Candace?
Hi, good evening. I am from Guyana. I'm the founder of Guyana Trans United. I'm a human rights activist to say. And some of the work, I can't really directly pinpoint directly some of the work that we, because our service is broad. And individually, when we meet with a particular trans or a person of the challenge that they face or experience, because we even work outside of the trans community and the particular need, then we will try to address the particular need. So we do, if I should list some of the service, we do HIV work though as one of the driving force in doing some of the service, because what HIV work was able to help us to do is to have an office space and able to have our, so we use as the broad work to do what we do individually to every person that we come into contact with.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I am Daniel Daphnis. My pronouns are he, him, and they. I'm a member of Men Empowerment Network, and the work that we usually do is to bring about awareness and challenge the various issues that men face in regards to mental health issues. Also, besides that, I do some private investigation work in regards to helping my other LGBT folks around Antigua and Barbuda. And I'm originally from Guyana, but I'm only living in Antigua now.
Listen, we got it right here. Guyana, Barbados, Antigua, Trinidad and Tobago. What's going on? Anyways, before we get into the panel discussion, I just want to say that we will take questions from our viewers, at least I think 2 questions. Sometime between the discussion and maybe to the end, we will incorporate this into our discussion. Somewhere or the other, we'll decide that into the panel. Moving forward, just some housekeeping. I think we'll be targeting at least maybe 2 to 3 minutes per question. Questions will be asked and answered through the lens of the country condition, impact on community, and impact on the speaker. I know that we have so much things we want to say, but time doesn't permit us. But I know for a fact we will get through some of the best parts of what we want to get out tonight. So without further ado, let me go into our first question. For countries with existing colonial laws, what are the barriers to ending these laws, and how such laws impact your community or yourself with stigma, street harassment, and discrimination? And you can answer just one by one, mute yourself and answer the questions.
So I'll jump in here. So in Barbados specifically, we were a British colony, as most Eastern Caribbean countries were. But for me, the biggest challenge that the community faces around the world, again, specifically for Barbados, is access to changing the gender marker. And that comes from the Vital Statistics Act, which is your birth certificate. And it has never been challenged in Barbados, so there's no provisions for any amendments to be made to it. Subsequently, you can change your name in Barbados. There is a fee. It takes 6 to 8 weeks, but you cannot change the gender marker. So you go from Bob to Susan, but your gender marker remains the same. So when you get your license and passport, it is a barrier navigating, like when you present female, and I'm gonna use some other terms, like when you present, when you're cis passing or persons assume that you're a cisgender, and then you present your ID, it becomes a big problem. People, usually for me, when I go places, this is pre-COVID, because now masks are slightly helpful when you present in places. But when you present pre-COVID, they would say, "Oh, miss, there's an error on your license." So I would say, "Oh yeah, girl, I passed my driver's test after 3. The office was closed. They just gave me the thing and the system printed the error. So I just took it because I wanted to get out of there." Always something to navigate around the trauma associated with the gender marker that is attached to your identity, which doesn't align with your gender identity. So the Vital Statistics Act is a huge barrier when it comes to navigating life comfortably within some reasonable measure of safety, because it also is a safety issue. When you think about it, you're going to other places and you need to use your ID or access healthcare services when they don't have the parameters to competently deal with trans persons. So there are all of these things that exist with that barrier of the gender marker attached to your birth certificate, as well as when you're navigating that this is for persons. I don't want to offend anybody, but we're going to be real. It's using terms that we all know. When you're passable, it's fine, and you think that you are the queen and you navigate through somewhat not so nice areas in town. But then when you see another trans girl or another trans man and they're heckled, harassed, stoned, bottled, what can you do? And it happens. It happens. You then go, well, let me get out of this area before somebody clocks me, somebody finds out, or you go to try to help that person and end up in as much or worse danger than them. And that leads into there's no protection from the police, doing sensitization trainings with the police through US funded projects and whatever, but the projects are just that. When they end, at the end of the day, goes back to the same stereotypes, the stigma, the discrimination. There is nothing there concrete. And policies are, we all know, those that are in this for a while, no, policies are easy to say, let's create a policy so that it's inclusive of trans persons. And the policy stays just there on paper. The policy is not enforced. We know legislation is the thing that we really want, but legislative change takes a long time. And we're still stuck in limbo because you don't respect us as trans persons because our gender identity is not there on paper. You don't value our lives when we go for healthcare services. You don't value our education because we can't go to school without fear of harassment. We can't get protection when we're harassed, beaten, or threatened, or worse yet, killed. There's no satisfaction, any justification to the families of persons who, we do have families and our families do care about us. So all of these things impacts us, and it's always compounded. It's not just one single thing. It's always a cluster. So that is the challenges that we face in Barbados.
Thank you very much for sharing, Raven. Is there anybody else that would like to drop in on this question? Candace?
I'll hop in.
No problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I wanted to echo so much of what our Bajan sister had mentioned. In Trinidad, it's very, very much the same. And especially when it comes to employment, it's one of the biggest issues that our trans community is faced with, because so many of our trans brothers and sisters, I assume all Caribbean societies, but definitely in Trinidad, to get a job, you have to present your ID. And it's used as a point of leverage. I mean, I can speak for myself. I was in a government job, and this was at the beginning of my transition. And when my transition was becoming clearer, they told me that under the law of the land, our government only recognizes two genders, and that's in accordance with your birth certificate. So pretty much either come to work as your birth certificate, or don't bother coming to work. And that's a mild example. We have another sister who recently brought up a case where when she went for a job interview and then her ID was viewed, they literally locked her into that job interview, and the owner of the job, threatened her with a gun and then called the police. And then when the police came, they locked her up for impersonation. And this is last year, right? So this is not 10 years ago. So I think that this, just to echo so much of what was said, definitely the gender marker is one of the biggest barriers that comes from colonial law to, stigma and harassment. And also, I will echo the sentiments of passability. It's something that we have to discuss. In the Caribbean society, there's not a sect of people like there may exist in the global north that are aware of, the intricacies of the trans experience. So you find that once there's possibility in a trans person in the Caribbean society, there's nothing to really think about anymore, because there's nobody really thinking, is that really a woman? Is that really not a woman? There's not, or man, there's not that agenda here really. And so really the ones that are most impacted by a lot of these things are our gender non-conforming brothers and sisters, or trans brothers and sisters that are not in that full scale of their transition yet, which also is a healthcare barrier. So
thank you very much for sharing, Zul. And when you talk about possible, I think on the issue of gender identity and gender marker on your identification documents, I don't think you're possible until you reach that limit of having to present this document. So let's say you're so possible in every other crowd, but you have to present a document that has M when you're actually F, right? So I don't think none of possible people in all these are not issues that they're even could escape or work around.
Yes, yeah, agreed, yeah.
I think we have Miss Naomi Santiago wants to go next. And panelists, please remember, in the interest of time, can we just have a discussion between 2 to 3 minutes on our answers? Thank you.
Lament. Hi, everyone. I can continue to lament on what the other panelists would have been saying, but what I do say, oftentimes laws are influenced by culture. And I'm from a country where the culture of the people is brainwashed by music and all of these sort of things, and puts transgender women in a very difficult place. I grew up in one of the most homophobic places in Ghana, which is Linden. And I was finding myself in terms of figuring out whether or not I want to be a trans woman, or I just want to stay in the closet just to hide myself from my true self because of where I was living. And most transgenders from Ghana, I think we face the same thing. Growing up in a Christian family even makes it more difficult, far more difficult. And because of that, I tend to detach myself from my family. And that's why I always say, blood makes you related, but loves make you family. So the laws is affecting transgenders in a very, very big way. You don't get to show your true potentials because persons in Ghana will not hire you because of what you have to offer, but they will look at you because of who you are and decide, you know what, she or he is not good enough for this job because of their sexual identity. So I think it's about time. And I know that Ghana Trans United, because I'm a part of Ghana Trans United, I'm a part of the Ghana Sex Workers Coalition, I'm a part of SASA, and I know that these people are fighting. I know that since Twinkle was in Ghana, she was fighting for Guyanese transgenders, and she's still overseas and she's still fighting. I'm hoping that one day the world is going to come to a place where people do not see us as transgender or as LGBTQ persons and just see us as normal people, because we are.
Lady Destra, so powerful.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will go and like to call on Danielle next.
Yes. So I would like to add to what the other panelists say in regards to with Antigua. I would have experienced similarity in regards to with the whole gender marker and stuff like that. Because, say for instance, when, as you can see, I'm presented as a male, but however, when in regards to me having gaining employment, when I send out application, most definitely when I show up, persons they looking for a female because my name, my legal name, is Denelli Daphnis. So when I go for an interview, persons are most definitely looking for a female, and because the fact that how I present myself and how I identify myself, the kind of like made a lot of persons reject me from giving me the job. So that's what going on in Antigua in regards to with the laws.
Is there anyone else, Candace, would you like to jump in on this question before we move forward?
Sorry for my internet connection at my end, but Twinkle, I'm grateful tonight to be a part of this panel, being the reason that there are so many Guyanese trans women is a part of this panel. And I thought about the panel tonight, and when I look at some of the positive, even those laws and policy, I look at our resilience as Guyanese, as trans person. Even though there might be laws to criminalize trans or LGBT person, I'm proud tonight. I'm proud in the sense that before 2009, we've been locked up steady for just being male dressed in female attire. You know how they used to get us running every weekend. Today we able to take the case before the court. We went till to the long all to the court. We went till to the CCJ and we get victory. I want to say it's not a walk in the park, but continue us to be resilient. I'm proud of you, Twinkle, for the work that you've been doing. Today, you remind me so much of what my grandmother would have taught me as a child growing up. And she said, never stop planting tree because you're going to benefit from trees that somebody else planted before. And today, an example, being working for GTU might not be the most ideal space, but we recognize early the challenge that trans person was facing across the Caribbean. Even when you was being locked up in Suriname, simple communication, we couldn't have get to you. So those are some of the work that we continue to do today at GTU. Today, I'm proud to share this space with 4 persons from Guyana Trans, who is actually a part of Denelli, yourself, myself, and share.
I think we've lost Oliver. What can I say? I'm speechless at the moment, but let us move on to our next question. There's just so much to process at this time. What does access to affordable trans healthcare and HIV prevention, treatments, and cares looks like within your respective countries? And how does this impact the community or yourself? who would like to take the go on this? Or should I call somebody?
I'll go again.
Okay, thank you.
Right. So, like I said, we have a decent relationship with the Ministry of Health in Barbados, and that is collaboratively with other LGBT organizations. Equals, particularly, has been a well known LGBT organization in Barbados, and they've spearheaded the link to care with the Ministry of Health. And when um, I came on board, I tried to create a space where there was some level of normalcy with interacting with trans persons. So right now, Equals offers HIV enrollment and care for PL HIV persons. They also provide testing services. So we pretty much have our own. I'm also the executive director of Equals. So we also have our own safe space, which operates as a clinic as well. So there are community workers who are trained in HIV rapid testing and counseling. I myself am one of them. So the disparity before or around the Caribbean where trans persons don't have access to HIV care and medication is not particularly a challenge in Barbados. So that's a great thing because again, the stigma attached to HIV is usually gay men and then pushing on the your original sex at birth for trans women. They're usually lumped trans women and gay men. So the link to care for trans persons is available. There is still work to be done with regard to HIV care for trans persons specifically. And usually women are more in tune with their health. So you see trans women going for testing, HIV testing, STI screening, and then usually once they find out if they are HIV positive, they usually follow through with the care as opposed to men or trans men specifically. But again, women are more in tune with their health, so it's easier for a woman to go access services and follow through with the health care. I do think that it's a great thing that Equals having this safe space, particularly has decentralized the place where the Ministry of Health has their operating space for disseminating the antiretrovirals. But there could be more spaces similar that offer services that is not a centralized place to reduce the stigma of persons going there trans specific. So yes.
Thank you very much for sharing that, Raven. And we acknowledge that every country situation is different. So without further ado, can we hear from Daniel?
Okay. So in Antigua, there's a big challenge in regards to accessing healthcare for trans. Because I can recall, like, when I first started my transition, originally I started it inside Antigua, right? Last year, and that posed a big challenge for me. I had to do some background research of my own, screening and interviewing various healthcare providers, private healthcare providers, and I even had to lie to them and informing them, right, telling them that I was on hormones before, and because of COVID and the country shut down, I am not getting a chance to get access to my treatment, right? So doing some screening and stuff and so on, interviewing various doctors and stuff and so on, you know, then I came across a doctor that gave me the gay friendly vibes, right? Because at the same time, as much as I wanted it so bad to start a transition, I didn't want nobody to really like experiment on me, right? So I was, careful in regards to that aspect. So the doctor told me that I had to come in and to do various tests and stuff like that because I didn't even know how to do all them things. That's why I did just worry. Just I wanted was to go and get a doctor prescription and to go to a pharmacy because I would have already do my research in terms of which pharmacy to go to access it. But it comes back to just getting the prescription. So I did just want a doctor prescription. I not knowing that I have to go through all these series of tests and stuff and so on and things like that, right? So I went, I got the tests them done and stuff and so on, and then today I am on testosterone, thank God. Yeah. And a lot of persons not really aware that you can access these medications because remember now there's not much knowledge in regards to accessing these medications in the Caribbean, right? Most persons think that, in order for you to start your transitioning whatsoever, you have to go abroad to do so, right? So in regards to that, you can't access these medications, however, you got to be careful, and you could only access it through healthcare providers, and going through healthcare providers is very expensive. You gotta, so it's very costly, but however, it's a good cost for me. It's a good cost because I'm getting to live my truth, right? And in regards to with the HIV prevention treatment in Antigua, there are three places that I'm aware of. That is, one is women against rape, yeah, and there is the AIDS Secretariat, as well as Planned Parenthood Association. Those three places, they provide HIV prevention treatment for trans folks, right? So persons could go and access the various preventions methods for persons. So that is what's going on in regards to with Antigua, with trans healthcare, and with HIV prevention in Antigua.
Daniel, I love that the fact that you said, when you was thinking about healthcare or thinking about HRT specifically, you went and you check around doctors, you look for the best information or whatever you could have get. Because I remember when I first started taking hormones, it wasn't about I can't remember anything about medical advice. I know we know that the girls access hormones from Suriname, and we wanted hormones, and we went to Suriname and get our hormones without any medical supervision at all. Sometimes we had even inject ourselves. So, but to get more into that discussion, I would like to pass it over to Lady Naomi Destro. If you can just join us on this question and give us your thoughts.
Hello. Well, me being from Ghana, just like Twinkle said, I saw my sisters with boobs and, looking all feminine, and I knew I was a transgender woman, but I needed to transform myself into my true self. So just like Twinkle, I came to Suriname and I started taking the hormones treatment without no medical advice or nothing. I just knew that I wanted injections because I wanted to look like a woman, like the person that I am. As it relates to accessing care in Ghana as a transgender woman, thank God that there are organizations. Because the first thing you have to worry about going to a healthcare facility is the stigma and discrimination that's attached to transgender women and every other body. That's that of the LGBTQ society. Yes. Then you have to worry about confidentiality. That is a big, big, big thing with accessing healthcare in Ghana. And then you have to worry about when your back's turned, whether or not the nurses are going to talk and do this and that. And it goes back to the same thing. I can recall one time I went to the police station. One time I went to, it was a healthcare facility in New Amsterdam. And I showed them my passport. And she was like, "This is not your passport." I said, this is my passport. She said, this is not your passport. And she had to call to verify that I was actually a male and all of these things. So it's a kind of embarrassing to know that persons are supposed to be extremely professional when they're doing certain work and they're not. However, here in Suriname, it's a lot different. Persons are a lot more accepting and they're a lot more open-minded. But thank God for organizations in Ghana like the Ghana Trans United and the Ghana Sex Workers Coalition and SACED and these other places that, you know, if you're afraid to go and seek these services for yourself, they have social workers and other persons that work within the organization that's always there to assist you and take you.
Thank you so much, Naomi. And must I say, could I say this? The situation is real up. Anyways, moving forward, can we, Zoli, would you like to touch on these questions?
Yeah, sure. Just quickly, because I know, you know, the time's going on. With regards to trans healthcare in particular, well, actually, I'll start with regards to HIV intervention. Unfortunately, our founder and president, Brandy, she works very closely with the Family Planning Association of Trinidad. And so through her and her work and our combined work, they're also one of the partners of the Trans Coalition. We're able to ensure that our community gets regular access to testing, you know, from that aspect of healthcare. And also, should people, you know, discover that they become a PLHIV, you know, there's a very robust program to ensure that medication and testing and all that is done in a way which is affirming trans people and our identities. And that's mainly in part to, you know, thanks to Brandy and her work, her direct work in that over these years. With regards to trans healthcare in particular, accessing EHRT and whatnot, that's once again only in the remit of public healthcare, private healthcare. And of course, it's very expensive. So through my own journey, I have assessed a couple endocrinologists throughout the country, as well as a couple psychiatrists, as well as a couple therapists, psychologists, because the endocrinologist needs the, you know, referral from the psychiatrist and whatnot. So we have a small directory of a few doctors in each of these areas that are willing to provide healthcare on a private basis to our trans brothers and sisters, and their offices are very well educated and informed and supportive. But once again, you know, this is only if you have access to the money to pay for these services. Just to give you an idea, like one of our endocrinologists, her you know, visitation fee is $100 US. That's just to see her. That's just your first visit. You know, private healthcare in Trinidad is very expensive. So right now what we do is we try to partner with different organizations that have access to funding, and sometimes they would come in and act like insurance, and so they would cover the costs of some of the healthcare. But of course, for a member of the community to go on HRT and to access your hormones every month, I mean, hormones would cost around 150 US per month, specifically for a trans woman. Okay. So that's some insight into what's happening in, I see Antoine asked if psychiatrists are providing treatment from a culturally sensitive perspective. Yes, the psychiatrists are actually more so function from the perspective of giving the endocrinologists the recommendation and the evaluation or the assessment that the community member actually does suffer from gender dysphoria, so that the endocrinologist can prescribe, can safely prescribe, you know, the medication from that perspective. So it's less about us recommending psychiatrists for treatment and more about using them to help trans persons access endocrinologist treatment.
What can I say? They give us nothing, but we still try to make something out of it. Like literally, I'm speaking from my own experience living in Guyana even living here, like there's actually not much that we have as trans people, and but we still make something out of it. And just think if we get a little more, what that would look like for us, right? Moving forward, and thank you, Zoe, for that good answer. Moving forward, are there challenges to employment and housing sustainability? And how does this affect the community and yourself? Anybody want to take forward first, or should I call somebody?
I think, Twinkle, you know, from Guyana, and I think it's across the Caribbean, that for some person, and because of culture, I think Ms. Santiago alluded to it first, and many times culture influence person. And we live in a cultural society. They feel that LGBT person is an abomination. So many times they don't allow us to rent this space. And when they do, sometimes for some reason, some person rents a space, the price is always double or triple the amount that they would normally rent for a regular person to have us housing or shelter over their head. I think the challenge though is that many times person wanted to support the community, but you would always argue and we would always fight that it's deeper than just coming and put in work and fund and direct a project and get us project driven, but to have a need directly access to the community in terms of having real space, and meaning real space in terms of having their own office space so you could create that whole safe space to them, and the board just don't left because it's a funded project and the project is about HIV work. But to have ownership, and a lot of work needs to done in terms of our community, how we able to empower our community. And I think one of the things in empowering people is not just about education level, it's having person to own, able to have their own bank account, able to have places of their own. And I think that is one of the greatest empower, that if we can start looking at shifting the dynamics, even though we might have programs and targets to meet, but individually we should look at the person in front of us as the collective person and their specific need towards the challenge.
Thank you very much, Candace. And you know, like my mind is so taken up with so many things. When the day come, I forget to extend a happy Pride to each and every one of you here. And my message, every Pride time I think about my message. I think my message for this year Pride is to remember Pride was a protest, and the protest will not stop until we are acknowledged, or we can live our authentic and true selves. And that means housing, employment, education, whatever space everybody else takes up, we must be there too. Is there anybody else want to join in on this question about around employment and housing sustainability?
Just briefly, in Barbados, they recently passed a new legislation in September 2020, and this employment legislation covers LGB persons. It left out the T. So gay men, lesbians, they can be hired, and subsequently, if they're working, to terminate them based on their sexual orientation is illegal. However, they didn't cover the trans persons. So trans persons can't be employed. And if they're employed, they're subject to harassment based on their gender identity, gender expression, as well as if there's some employers that may hire you, but they can't control the staff from heckling you, calling you a man if you're a trans woman. And then depending on the establishment, again, certain policies may be in place. They may enforce that you as a trans woman, because your ID or passport, if you used it for when you applied, they'll force you to be referred to as your then sex. So these things are, again, a huge hindrance, a big challenge in navigating life daily. and we're working to have that legislation amended to cover the trans identities.
Thank you. And Raven, I know, you know, the laws, but when I look at the employment case that we recently had here in the US, and it tells me, you know, we had marriage equality in 2015, and then we recently had employment, you know. I think we really got to be focused on these things that can secure us more. Like marriage is so important, but in terms of employment and healthcare and sustainability, how far does this fit in? You know, and I like the fact that this is coming out in conversations, and even in ways the laws are there, but they exclude us. So before I move on, would anybody else like to come give a take on this question or share some thoughts, or should I move on? Okay, so our next question is, we're in the midst of a pandemic and things are happening. Some countries are recovering, some are not. And you know, the lives and existence of trans people has always been in the midst of in a pandemic state. And so while we're in this pandemic, how has the COVID-19 pandemic impacted the vulnerable trans community, including low income and survivor sex workers?
Well, here in Antigua, well, because of the COVID, they'll bring about shortage of medication because since the whole COVID, it's almost about 3 times I had to change my medication because of shortage. So the last time when I purchased medication, I had to end up going ahead and purchase a whole entire year's stock, right? Um, also, well, you don't know because of the whole COVID whatsoever, a lot of persons get laid off. And in most workplaces, the first set of persons them that they look for layoff is persons that they presume are part of the LGBT community. This is the first set of persons them that they look to lay off, right? Then the government, yeah, they initiated vouchers and assistance and stuff and so on. But however, trans persons were not included. Trans persons was excluded, and external bodies had to come about and assist persons in the LGBT community to access food hampers and vouchers and stuff like that in Antigua. And for the sex workers, them, I know they experienced they were most likely affected a lot, right? Because after with the whole corona and stuff and so on, Antigua gets shut down, so you can't really get to go out and do your little hustles and stuff and so on, right? Then even though the country opened back they opened it to 6 a.m. to midday, there still wasn't sufficient time for them to go out because remember now everybody watching in terms of if they go out, they're afraid to catch corona, right? So even though they bring about the vaccination and stuff and so on, it's still a challenge for sex workers them because now the prices would have dropped. So persons didn't really want to pay the amount that they used to pay and stuff and so on. So that's what's going on in regards to with COVID and how it has impacted the trans community and as well as the sex worker in terms of surviving.
Thank you, Daniel. I want to say this quickly. When you talk about vouchers and stuff like this, I just want to say shame on the government of Guyana, because my community, they're sharing 25,000, like 100 and something US dollars for a household. My community and the people that I come from and where I come from, many of us don't own a house. We live a sister renting a place, and a sister can shelter a sister, or a brother can shelter a sister. Community will take care of community. Did you cater for us? You was never catering for us, even in a pandemic. Just shameful. Moving forward, I would like to call on Lady Naomi Santiago Destra. Can you please give us your input on this question? I think we've lost her, but we can move forward with somebody else. Zoli?
Sorry.
Go ahead. You go ahead.
Right. So COVID-19, when the pandemic hit, again, like Daniel said, the government were checking for trans people at all. Equals had food hampers and they distributed them to the majority of the community, and then I got some to give to the trans person specifically. Then we got a grant to do essential packages, and initially we thought it was enough, but then the pandemic stretched and stretched, and lockdowns and curfews stretched, and there was nothing after a while to give to the community. And again, trans needs are different to those of gay men and lesbians. So food is not only the essentials, and alcohol is not only the essentials that the trans community needed. They needed hormones. They needed those ARTs for those who are PLHIV. There were persons who had mental health issues that needed medication to stabilize whatever psychosis that they were going through or other mental health challenges. There were those who were disabled that didn't have access to things because of their disabilities. And these are things that we don't usually think about as able-bodied persons. Again, working in the fields, working on the ground, you know that, again, this thing has been spoken about for the past year and a half, 2 years, intersectionality. But how intersectional is it when you really look at the gaps between trans and everything else? So there were a few other persons who gave specifically to the trans community, and we were very grateful for it. But again, after that, I had to depend on my family situation because I live with family. And I had to depend on my family situation in my own pockets to provide packages for the community, to provide hormones for the community. I had to buy hormones in bulk because after a while, a pharmacist told me that nothing is coming in. So the hormones that would have been there, we usually use birth control pills. It's not a secret. So regular cisgender women were buying stock of hormone birth control pills because they were locked at home with their boyfriends, or female sex workers were locked at home with abusive partners and they were on twice the amount of birth control pills. So there was a depleting source of medication for the community. So the COVID-19 pandemic was one hell of a situation that nobody ideally could have anticipated, the great despair that it would have created, specifically for a marginalized community within a marginalized community.
Thank you very much, Raven. And when you talk about grants and communities coming out, and I think one of the greatest experience, one of the best thing I like for COVID has not that I like about COVID. I don't like anything about COVID, but one experience I can talk about is that communities took care of communities. We get out there in whatever little bit we had, we mobilize, we come out, we reach out to our sister. And this is something that we've been doing prior to COVID, but we've just increased this now. I think a lot of us have come together, but nevertheless, resources are so limited and many of us were still impacted. So without going farther, can I have Lady Naomi Santiago here?
Hi, hello everyone. My manners, happy Pride to all of you. Being a transgender woman, commercial sex worker, I can speak offhand from personal experience. This has challenged the sex workers community more than I think any other job title, because our job requires meeting and touching. And when you're not able to work, especially when you are living in a foreign country, where you're not from, and you have to pay rent and find food to eat, It's extremely difficult knowing that you cannot work because the first thing is that sex work do not have financial insurance. You don't pay taxes and these things, so there's no benefits from it. So you have to work all the time to make your money. Suriname have a total lockdown from 4 this afternoon to 5 tomorrow morning. Then you have lockdown from 5 tomorrow evening, and then the entire weekend is total lockdown. Now, we still go on the streets because we have to live. The police has picked me up and most of my transgender sisters like 10 times, and they place you in a facility where you sit from whatsoever time they pick you up after 5 in the morning. I've been there like 10 times. And do I want them to pick me up again? No. But do I have to go back to work? Yes, because I have a life I have to live. And the Suriname government is not doing anything for us. Thank God, Twinkle, through some organizations, have assisted us with some assistance, with some financial assistance and voucher. But other than that, we've never received no assistance whatsoever. And it's as if, persons there forget about transgenders and persons of the LGBTQ community. And it is really heartrending knowing that, if I go there, they're going to pick me up, but yet I still have to go. So, but like Twinkle said, we are our sister's keeper. And, this time has really proven the strength of sisterhood because, together we stand, divided we fall. So we're trying to assist each other in whatsoever way we can, because it is really trying times, and it's really testing the strength of you as a human being. But we, as persons of the LGBT community, we're strong, we're titanium, and we were built to last. And I know that we're gonna get through this.
Thank you so much for that, Naomi. I know also Trinidad is in a lockdown period or something right now, an emergency, and I would just like to make space for Zoli to share her experience right now.
Yeah, so Trinidad is currently in a state of emergency. We've gone into the red zone with regards to our cases. And so we're on a curfew, so from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. every night. It's complete total lockdown. It's a state of emergency, so you're not even allowed to be outside unless you're considered an essential worker. So definitely, for our sex work community, this has been, a major point of impact. And Trinidad expects that this lockdown is going to continue until July or August. Right, so that's 3 months, and they've locked down every other sector of work except for strictly essential services. So in as much as, and this similar to what happened in Barbados is what happened here, for the first pandemic, for the first lockdown, the first wave, we did get some support. We did get, a couple food hampers, hygiene kits, that kind of stuff. But now we find ourselves in a position where we're literally begging partners for even just food cards, so.
Thank you very much for sharing, Zoli. When COVID, when the lockdown and everything started and was put in place, the first thing, I was home, I was doing school and stuff like that, but I put all that aside. The first thing that come to my mind was the community that I shared space with in the past. My sisters like Destra and all of us who lie on one carpet and sleep after a hard night of work. Like, what will become of my sisters? What will become of them when they have rent obligations? What will become of them when they just have to survive and thrive in such a small space? So I quickly think I partner with Glitz Inc., Kai and Dora Show, and we raise some funds and we get some support to persons on the ground in Guyana. But what I would like to say now before I move forward to our next question, the pandemic is not over. And for persons watching, for persons viewing, wherever you are, if you have a little small change, please, there are members of the community here. There's the CP here. Their individual members are sure their contact and their information, it would be displayed from time to time on the screen. Reach out to organizations, reach out to community, reach out to individuals, and just lend a helping hand until we can get past this time. So our next question, looking into a brighter future and past COVID and overcoming our struggles and barriers, using our creative imaginations, what does trans joy and resilience look like and feel like for every one of us? If I'd like to hear each and every one of you on this question.
Twinkle, for me, I'd like to go for it. I would like to say resilient is what you are. I can't say how grateful I am to be a part, and I'm going to continue to echo to be a part of this panel. I think before 2000, prior to 2009, there weren't much trans activists around the Caribbean. Many of us has been lumped into MSM space, and our need has never been addressed. People has never heard our voice. Today, I'm grateful to know across the Caribbean. You know, when we attempted first under our first fund from COC Netherlands to actually create the trans movement across the Caribbean, where we were able to invite a group of trans from different countries, is to speak about this resilience that we're seeing today. Trans person voices being echoed across. It's across every region. It's no government can say now, or any politician, that they don't hear the cry, the needs of our trans community. And for me, I am grateful. I'm continue to be grateful for person like you, Destra and Suriname, Denelli, and all our trans colleagues in Trinidad and with Barbados and such forth. I think this is the movement. And for me, I can only see the vision that I always have, that our trans one day, this little step, baby step that we're taking, is going to blossom into the world. And I always believe we're going to be a part of a pink economy, because the world by itself is robbing itself when you're not going to look at our talent. We are masters of our own experience, Twinkle. And today I'm proud. I'm proud of the work that you do and other trans women do, and other trans men do, and person of trans experience by speaking out, being resilient. You know, Twinkle, for a fact, we're the most sympathetic person. A woman will have a problem, she come to a trans woman. Men will have problem. We're not the solution. Sometimes when we go out to do sex work, because the labors of sex work, we are orgasm therapists. Sometimes when we go out there, we serving those problems. Men come with so much athlete. Sometimes we're not into sex, but we're giving good advice to keep family alive. And I think the world over is robbing itself if they're going to continue to marginalize us or put us in a vacuum and see us as alien. The world is robbing. It's time to make use of us as trans, inclusive for us in every way. We are masters of our own experience, a word that you would always say to us. And I think if they continue to include us, then we can have a pink blossom in the world.
Thank you very much for sharing, Candace. And I must say, you know, without I'm grateful that you admire my journey, and you know you can thank me for my journey. But without the help of community and without the help of coming to King Street and the church and meeting girls like you and Destro and all the rest of girls that passed, and even Barbie, Mugu, Awi sisters, you know, I would have not been able to do what I'm doing today, or to lift my head and just walk proud and say that I'm Twinkle and you will respect me regardless, right? So community and sex work have made me who I am today, and I'm grateful for that. Would anybody else like to share? Not with anybody. Who else? Who next would like to go? Can you please step up to the forefront? Thank you.
So just briefly, following Candace's little tribute to Twinkle, when I first met Twinkle in Trinidad, I was like, oh my God, there's somebody else like me that has a mouth that is slightly uncontrolled. And I was so fascinated because I've been in spaces before where gay men would have said, oh, you're too loud, or you're too aggressive, or you don't need to be like this to get your point across, always trying to silence. And then when I met Twinkle, where it was all trans women focusing on fighting for what they need collectively in the Caribbean, I was so fascinated. And I met so many other trans women now who I'm still friendly with, who are still doing the work around the region. And for me, trans joy is so simple. It's community. Like when I look to other trans women who were before me, Didi, a well-known trans woman in Barbados and the Caribbean for her flag prowess, numerous NIFCA awards. There is Holly. There are so many other trans women, and now me coming up as a baby little girl to the woman that I am now, and having these women tell me, keep going, sis, keep fighting, keep the movement going, is a full circle moment, to say the least. And the resilience is seeing and meeting people around the Caribbean that are doing the same thing. I know Twinkle from before, but I didn't know that there was Daniel in Antigua. I only recently saw Zoe pop up on Instagram. There was something, and I saw her, and I was like, didn't know that there were other trans people in Trinidad other than Brandy. Love Brandy to death. So that is what trans joy and resilience is for me. Seeing community blossom and keep fighting for things that we should have access to without having to fight so damn hard.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, Zoe. You can go. Sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I was just taking it off of that. Yeah, no, I think that, very much right now, trans joy and trans resilience looks like, especially that community, taking strength from our global community. From a global perspective, there is so much advancement, just even of the voices of trans people, in as much as we know there's still so much work to be done. And I feel like there is a lot of happening on the local community levels in each of our pockets across the Caribbean. I think a part of the joy is acknowledging the unique time in history that we're living in. Like, we're literally living in that crucial crux of a time where 10 years from now, we trust and we understand that the conversations and the reflections and the fights at those times will be completely different, because we are now laying a groundwork for our rights and our just thriving within everyday society. And so for me, that's part of my joy, is the acknowledgement of the work that exactly has come before us in the past 20 years from trans mothers and fathers that, lay the foundation in whichever ways they can. And now we have the baton, and we get to fly it in a time which is still a bit better than they had, and making sure that the time to come is better than we had, so.
Of course, great. Green pastures are before us. Destra, Daniel, would you like to share? Destra, Daniel, you can go. Okay, go, Destra.
Yes. Some quote that I live by is that you can never appreciate life until it knocks you down a few times. You can never appreciate happiness until you know sadness. As long as you've walked through the valley, the view from the mountaintop is often breathtaking. Trans beauty for me is like a torch. I believe that all of us have this torch of flame that we pass to each other until eventually we take that torch into that destination when we're hoping that it would be. Right? I'm hoping that one day that this torch that we're carrying, this torch of inclusivity, non-discrimination, equality, and everything, I hope that one day this torch is going to reach to the people that we wanted and we can plant it, and all of us can look at that flame that's going to be burning for forever after it is placed at the place that we hope that it will be.
Thank you. Is Daniel here? Do we have Daniel? I would really love to hear from my brother. But it doesn't seem like he's here. So before we move on to the next question, when you're answering these questions, please give us, say, your contact information, your affiliate organization, your social media platforms, whatever you're on, so that people can reach out and connect back to you in whatever way to support your work, support you, and, you know, just live in a nice world where we have connections. The final question before we close the night off. So we've discussed some critical challenges and experiences of the trans community. What is a call to action to this meaningful discussion that we've just completed? What is something you want to say? What you want to come out of here? Well, just anything. A call to action, though, in regards to everything we've discussed. Take it away, somebody.
All right, I'll start. I think one important call to action is a call to action for allyship. That the people who are looking on and even within our larger LGBT community, that our brothers and sisters who may not be suffering as much marginalization as we are in the trans community, that you would empower your position as an ally. And allyship can look like education to sensitization to donations, you know, putting your money where your mouth is. If you come from a place of financial excess, or not even financial incest, but institutional influence, you know, so many times we're not aware of the many ways in which we can major our resources. And so if there's a way in which you can support, even if not from resources of your own, but resources that you're connected to any one of the organizations represented here today, I think that is, you know, a great call to action. And so I'll just leave off saying, my name is Zoe and I represent the Trinidad and Tobago Transgender Coalition. And so thank you for having us, and that's our organization.
Daniel, can we have you since you're back on? Daniel, can you hear us? So I think we'll skip Daniel for now. We can move on to Raven or Naomi until we can get to Daniel.
Right. So you can find me on Instagram, the organization, and Facebook, Butterfly Barbados, and our website is butterflybarbados.com. You can use the website to send us a message. It comes via email, so usually respond pretty quickly. Call to action, I think, within the theme of pride, and pride originally being a riot, and now how pride has been commercialized, I think we need to get back to the real nature of community and allyship. So I think we need allies to come together and be our shield in the movement. What often is in the way becomes the way. And that is the cisgender, heteronormative, religious bias norms that stop our existence, that sort of diminish our light. that is what will be our foot in the door to break the barriers that we face. So, yes.
Thank you so much, Raven. And like for me, I love protest. I see the power of protest. I see what protest can do, from protesting police officers to protesting magistrate. You know, I had my own experience with protests, and when you put this into pride, and remember Stonewall was a riot, you know, we can't stop protesting for our rights. And just to give you a heads up, tomorrow I'll be speaking about my experience with the magistrate in Guyana, and the benefits of protest and going around that situation. So you can join us for that panel there tomorrow. But without me going any further, let's get Lady Naomi to give us her take.
I'm Naomi Santiago. I'm from the SASAD organization, which is the Society Against Sexual Orientation Discrimination. I'm a part of an organization here in Suriname called CFL, which is Chances for Life. I'm also part of GTU, which is the Ghana Trans United, and I'm a part of the Ghana Sex Workers Coalition. You can find me on Facebook. My name is Naomi Santiago. On Twitter, at Nice Tiago, and my IG is Naomi Santiago as well. I believe a call for action is just first to unify and don't stop protesting. You can never stop. You can never stop. We can never stop. There is strength and there is unity in us. Continue doing what we're doing. Let's us continue to be our brothers and our sisters keeper. Put our hands together and let's continue to protest until we get what we want. You understand me? Never stop protesting. Never stop giving. Never stop giving up. The road might seem long, but we've come to very, very far place from when I was a little girl. Now I'm a grown woman, right? We've come to very, 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 very far place, and I'm proud to know that I'm a transgender woman and I'm a part of such a beautiful community. You know that we have the biggest hearts in the world, and when persons get to see that, they see how beautiful we are. So my transgender brothers and my transgender sisters, let's not stop the fight. We're gonna get there.
We will get there, and we keep fighting. You know. Is Daniel here? Daniel, can you hear us? Daniel?
Yes, Twinkle, I'm hearing you.
Okay, love. So, this question, we've discussed some critical challenges and experience of the trans community. What is a call to action to this meaningful discussion we've just completed? And before you leave, make sure you give your organization contact, your contact, where people can find you, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, because this is our final question. Take it away, Daniel.
Well, to the viewers out there, you get to hear all of our experiences, right? So with that being said, you know, we all are human beings, right? We all are, we all should be living as one despite our sexual orientation and our gender identity. You know, we all can be our brothers keepers. You know, we are educators, health providers, and stuff like that, right? So, you know, all of us could come together as one for the fight for not just trans people, right, but for everyone. Because, say, for instance, any issue for women that are being battered, that facing gender-based violence, right, and for women that are being raped, right, any trans person out there, see them, we wouldn't just leave them just like that, right? We would try to help fight for them, and for children that are being neglected and stuff like that. Trans people, we are very loving people, right? And we don't just focus on just issue for ourselves. We focus on issues for everyone, for general public, right? So just like how we can be looking to break down all of these barriers, right, and all these challenges that persons are facing, right? Persons could look out for us just like how we're looking out for them too as well, right? So without being said, I would like to leave a little piece for persons out there that watching, right? Um, I am not transitioning to kill her. I love her. I know her. I am her. She is my entire history and childhood. She'll always be with me. I need to express him though. Allow him to be free. He is my present and my future. He needs to be my external expression in the world. Image of what I look like needs to match what I see in the mirror. I am the same person regardless of she or he. I am me, right? And this as well as goes to trans women as well, right? Despite we choosing to be free, it doesn't change who we are internally. We still loving human beings, right? Um, I'm a member of Men Empowerment Network. You can find us on Facebook. And for persons out there that want to reach me, my Facebook page is Terence Johnson, right? Feel free to message me if you want to ask any questions and stuff and so on, right? So, with that being said, I do hope everybody enjoy the evening and happy Pride to all my LGBTIQ family. Let's just continue living as one and continue to fight for each other.
Thank you, everyone here. Look, mightn't even sleep because I can just be thinking about this powerful discussion and panel we had. And sure, guys, please keep in contact with me. Reach out, message, hi, hello. We are a family, regardless of where we're from. The next thing I just want to reiterate, our discussions were around decriminalizing, was around allyship. We only need allyship. We need co-conspirators to help us take down these walls of oppression that surrounds us. We need resources. We need money. We need support for our work. We need so much thing, but most of all, we need love in this world and in this time that we're going through. And no, I must say, shout out to Antoine and everybody else who've organized this space for us. And thank you all for taking time out from your busy schedules, those who have to work at nights, at days, whatever time, to come and share space and speak of our experience and just, mash things up and let people hear from us because this is important. So thank you once again. My name is Twinkle Aria Paul. It's the same for Facebook. And whoever wants to reach out to me, you should be able to get me through Facebook, CP, somehow. But most importantly, my community members, reach out, stay in contact, and also be safe. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Give it up for Twinkle. Give it up for Twinkle, Candace, Zoe, Raven, Naomi, and Daniel. They were absolutely amazing. That was such a powerful discussion, and I really, really hope that we have this discussion much more often than we do and in more spaces than what this is. Thank you so much for kicking us off in this way. This was amazing. So that is a hard act to follow. I mean, I got up here, I'm like, okay, how am I gonna follow that up? That's a lot. That's like, climbing a bunny hill and then going up Mount Everest. Like, who can compare to that? But, just to try and attempt, we're gonna go ahead and show you another performance from our Love event from 2020. This is from the Three Queen and Coolie Boy. The three queens being my good friends, Sundari, the Indian goddess, Jalissa A. Ross, and Detox Bustier, as well as Rajiv Singh in their closing performance titled Three Queens and a Coolie Boy. This was really fun to watch live, like absolutely fun to watch live. So I hope you enjoy it too. Without further ado, here's Three Queens and a Coolie Boy.
But you didn't see this one coming.
I know I shouldn't have kept you waiting.
No. So, wow, what a performance, everybody. Give another round of applause for them.
So didn't I tell you it was fun? That was fun. So thank you so much for that performance of you guys. That was just amazing. And that's just that on that. Next, we are going to have my good friend who gave me the most wonderful introduction at the beginning of this entire event, Mr. Antoine Craigwell, for a thank you to our sponsors. So Antoine, take it away.
Thank you very much, Dee. This was an incredibly powerful event this evening, listening to our trans community members talking about their experiences and their lives, and some of the things that they've endured, especially during this particular pandemic, and the things that they still struggle with. I want to be able to just give a thanks to the members of that panel, to Twinkle Paul and the other members of the panel, to Dee, for hosting this event, to Mohammed and the team at CEP, Rich, who's behind the scenes, and our sponsors and partners and community partners for this entire Global South Summit. Next slide. Next. Next. All the way through. So these slides are going to be available. Go back one slide. These slides are going to be available so that you guys can see who the panelists were, read their bios, see all the information there is about them. Coming up, we've got on June tomorrow is the second day for Caribbean Equality for the English-speaking Caribbean. With another presentation and a panel discussion. And on Saturday, we have this Spanish-speaking Caribbean. We'll be doing a panel discussion as well, a presentation. Then on June 9th, there's a special separate panel discussion talking about a return to society. What does return to society mean for LGBT people of color and their mental health? What are you going back into? What kind of world are you going back into when this pandemic has resolved itself? And then coming up on June 18th, we've got the African community. So we're going to see presentations, a program from South Africa, from Transition, which is a transgender-led organization in South Africa, as well as from Zimbabwe Rainbow Community from in Zimbabwe. And then we've got in the West Africa, we've got presentations from Instab Niger in Nigeria, which is a predominantly gay organization in Nigeria. But then there's also Creme de la Creme House of Fame Foundation, which is a transgender organization in Nigeria. And it's particularly going to be significant to have the Nigerian presence in this Global South Summit because of the amount of violence that's perpetuated against the Nigerian LGBT community. We cannot forget that the LGBT community in Ghana is under severe threat. We cannot forget that there are members, at least 24 members of our community were arrested by the police in Uganda, and they are being held again. We cannot forget that 2 gay men died in Kakuma camp in Kenya, Block 13. So our communities are still under stress and strain and still struggling to just simply survive. Next slide. And then coming up after that, on June 23rd, we hear from our Southeast Asia communities. Are we leaving no one behind, moving towards LGBTQ economic inclusion in Cambodia, Laos, Indonesia, and the Philippines? And these will be presented by APCOM from Thailand, Baby Lanes in the Philippines, Kias in Laos, MRI in Cambodia, and Swarta Kita in Indonesia. And on June 24th, we will hear from our South Asian community in India, Sri Lanka, and Bangladesh, life at intersection of race and gender in the South Asian diaspora. Next slide. And then on the 28th, from the 20th to the 30th, we will hear from our communities in the Middle East and North Africa. Visibility deconstructs myths, lies, and prejudices. On the 28th with Artist Visibility, and on the 30th, Writing for Visibility. And these are representatives from across the entire North Africa and into the Middle East, including Iran, Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, and Palestine. There may be some representation from Palestine. And then we come to a close, and we bring this first LGBTQ People of Color Summit to an end on June 30th, and start thinking about next year, where, when we can have it. Next slide. So, see you tomorrow for a discussion on diversity and resilience through healing and transformative justice for a second day panel discussion. I now turn this over now to Mohammed and Kenita to close us out. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I am so full of joy. Thank you to Twinkle. Thank you to DB. Thank you to Antoine. Thank you to all of the speakers on that amazing panel, from Barbados to Suriname to Guyana to Trinidad to Antigua. You all are doing the work that needs to be done. This work is still about caring and loving our most vulnerable community members, and that also includes protecting them. My name is Mohammed Kiwamin. I'm the founder and executive director of the Caribbean Equality Project, and we are a Caribbean immigrants' rights organization that advocates for LGBTQ, Black and Brown Caribbean immigrants in New York City. I am privileged and honored to be in a virtual space with all of you today. As a proud, queer, Indo-Caribbean Muslim immigrant, a native of Guyana, and a survivor of indentured ancestry, and a reflection of the diverse composition of our LGBTQ community in New York City. The Caribbean Equality Project and Eastern Caribbean Alliance for Diversity and Equality came together to collaborate and to co-organize the English-speaking Caribbean segment for the first ever LGBTQ plus People of Color Global Summit. Twinkle Paul, Kenita, and I curated 2 days of activists, academics, performers, and community members who, as you saw tonight, will discuss and share their experiences, creativity, culture, and life journeys and work. As a collective representing various parts of the English-speaking Caribbean, we are similar, but yet so different. And that's because no story is the same. Together, we have faced colliding pandemics, from racism and colonialism to HIV and now COVID-19 and everything in between. South to South, we are creating space and holding space to amplify and share our voices, experiences, talents, passion, commitment, activism, and the work that is being done in the Caribbean and by queer and trans Caribbeans in the diaspora. The English-speaking Caribbean segment underscores the work being done by queer, trans, and non-binary organizers in Guyana, Trinidad and Tobago, Jamaica, St. Lucia, Barbados, Antigua, Suriname, the US, Canada, and the UK. That's right. Tomorrow we will be hearing from the one and only Jason Jones. Together, we will discuss topics related to barriers to ending colonial laws, stigma, street harassment, and discrimination, challenges to accessing employment, housing stability, affirming trans healthcare, HIV prevention and care. We will envision and dream out loud of what healing and transformative justice looks like while addressing LGBTQ protective measures within various constitutions in the Caribbean, such as hate crime laws and challenges to achieving justice. We will center the conversation and how the COVID-19 pandemic disproportionately impacts our vulnerable trans community members, including low-income and survival sex workers, while also celebrating, as you saw tonight, trans joy, trans visibility, and trans resilience. Since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, LGBTQ people have lived in a constant state of fear and isolation. From experiencing food insecurity and lack of access to equitable healthcare, to the rising rates of anti-Asian violence and police brutality against Black bodies, Black and Brown marginalized people have been under attack. Before we can heal and protect our vulnerable community members from these senseless acts of violence and discrimination, we must name them. It's about eradicating white supremacy, racism, xenophobia and misogyny, transphobia and homophobia. Today, we begin a new tradition in solidarity as we fight on for justice and collective liberation within colliding pandemics. Join us tomorrow, June 3rd at 7 p.m. right here as we conclude the English-speaking Caribbean segment of the very first Global South LGBTQ Summit. I am so honored to be in a space with Kenita, who has been literally a mentor to me from the very first time I've met them, from War Pride to the Human Rights Conference at the NYC Pride to and last year, within a pandemic, we participated in the very first Global Gay Black Pride. And that's also coming up again this year. And so I have the utmost honor to pass this mic over in a virtual space to my friend, my comrade, Kenita of St. Lucia.
Thank you so very much, Amin. I think when we look at this conversation, and I think you have said so much about it, it reminds us of the work that we still have left to do. So I want to really, really thank the panelists for showing up, for telling their story. It's really an honor, Antoine, to work with you behind the scenes, because creating those space where people can show up to tell their own story and not for a story to be told on their behalf is just as important. And so as we look at the work that we have done, and I listened to every single panelist carefully because there were certain key things that were so important. When we look at the work back in the Caribbean, back in on the ground, we know that before 2009, even if we had an idea that trans people were kind of around, the real identity standing up, standing out was not necessarily so. The frowned upon, the disassociation, the non-acceptance, even within the LGBT community was still so profound. As a matter of fact, anyone who actually identified as trans or thought of themselves differently really did not actually identify until they were in Global North. And so I think this is why for us the diaspora is so important. How can we continue connecting the diaspora back down to what's happening in mother country? And I think when we look at a collaboration like the Caribbean Equality Project and the Eastern Caribbean Alliance, it says how this can happen. When we look at the work Twinkle have been doing in this pandemic, connecting with Doris, Dorsho, that's the name, I believe. And if I have it wrong, stand corrected. But even she is the Grand Marshal for NYC Pride this year. Again, looking at the connections to make things happen. And I think this is that is so important. How are we decolonizing our language? How are we decolonizing the movement? How are we decolonizing our own bodies? How are we changing and showing up as our authentic self, not being afraid, not being insecure, but just being able to express? And I think those things are so important. And as we take it through and we look at what we are discussing, how we are discussing it, we are bringing you not just the stories of people, we are bringing you the people, the stories, the cultural experience, the fun, but also for you to understand the seriousness of what we have been dealing. And Amen, I think you were hitting that nail on the head when we spoke about the different things that we have gone through. It's the HIV, it's the COVID. There was a dengue outbreak in some of the countries. We're looking at volcanic eruptions in some places. The Caribbean is a place that always deals with climate change. Hurricanes every year. As a matter of fact, we have entered the hurricane season and it says to be a busy year. We don't know what's coming at us, but however, we are continuously preparing. We are continuously in a state of emergency. And as an LGBT person, as a queer person, as a person of color, as a non-binary person, which leads organization and leads people and creates spaces, we continually check ourselves in, because we need to be able to understand that our words and our actions need to match. We need to also ensure, as we do the work that we are doing, we are continuously striving to be better. Okay? Each time you move forward, each time you take a step, you look at making a better step. And so to all the activists out there who have been doing this, and even people who don't consider themselves activists, but they are still doing the work. They're still lending a hand. They're still having a listening ear. They are creating opportunities and creating safe spaces and being able to just move that dot 1 inch at a time. I would say to all of you, thank you. Antoine, for thinking of this kind of conference in the middle of all of what we are facing. I think when we look at where our people are and where they have been, how we have been able to reach out, let me say to you, Antoine, thank you. Amen, for seeing ECADE as an equal partner, for being able to connect as Caribbean folks. More importantly, I have learned a lot from you also, and I want to say to you, as long as we are open to learning, I will gladly have you at my side. Thank you. For this opportunity to work together and to bring this to a point where we can actually say something that was just a thought, something that was a discussion in the basement, something that we didn't think how it would have happened across the globe is actually happening. And we are having, and particularly, it's not just talking about LGBTQ persons. Is talking about LGBTQ persons of color. And that is one divide that is like clocking all over. And so I look forward to what tomorrow brings. I mean, tomorrow is going to be so inspiring. What we're going to talk about in terms of what's happening in the Caribbean. Lord, do y'all know there are 7 cases in the court? Do you know that the courts do not know what to do with us? Do you know that there have been great steps taken in Trinidad and in Belize? You know, when we think about 34 Commonwealth countries still criminalizes same-sex intimacy, and 11 of those countries were situated in the Caribbean. It's now down to 9, so that means we're doing something. We are doing something. And you know what? The work doesn't end here, no matter how much we do. And one thing I do hope, and people are taking note, is this. Whatever we are doing here now, the same way we borrowed from our ancestors, the same way we are standing on the shoulders of those who went before us, we are continuing to build so those who come after us have something to continue building. So the success we want may not happen with us, but we certainly know we are along that journey that allow those who come tomorrow to continue from somewhere without having to start from the very start again. So again, I say to all of you who joined in, who had to leave, who will get a copy of this video, it is gonna be on YouTube, on Facebook, it's gonna be around. Share it, like it, and just continue giving support to CEP, to ECADE. I know Twinkle had a special fundraiser for the trans people directly If that is still open, we should also ensure we share the link in the and again, folks, I know it's kind of late. Good night. Thank you. Amen. Lots of love.
Thank you so much, Kenita. And as you mentioned, tomorrow we're going to hear from folks based in Trinidad. We have Terry Ann Roy, Marcus Kisoon. We're also going to hear from Ryan Persadi in Toronto. We're going to hear from international activist Jason Jones. We're going to hear from Kenita, the one and only. We're going to hear from Alexa Huffman in the Bahamas. We're also going to hear from Gareth Henry, who is based in Canada, and all the work that he's been doing in Jamaica. And we're just so excited to have representation from St. Kitts and Nevis. And this is the work that we're doing. So tonight we leave you with joy, we leave you with hope, we leave you with resilience as we continue celebrating Pride here in New York City and throughout the world. Here's a video of the Caribbean Equality Project participating, waving our rainbow and Caribbean flags at the Brooklyn Pride Parade in 2019. Good night, everyone. Stay safe.